pull this up. Okay, there we go. It's great to be back to do an update on where we're at with federal funding. I think most of you are aware of our office and what we do. I mean, the gist is we're leading emission reductions in county operations, but also working hard with all of you on reducing county-wide emissions. And I want to start by just acknowledging that there is so much going on. It's kind of fun to follow Sun Prairie because they're doing a lot to green their operations and really are a great example of a municipality that's leading by example. One of the things that's amazing about doing this work in Dane County is there are so many success stories, so many innovative partnerships out there. We, in the last 6 months, looked at, our countywide goal is to reduce emissions compared to 2017, to cut them in half by 2030. And it's the modeling we did says we're on track to cut them at least by 40%. So we're 80% of the way to that goal. I think there's some things we can do to accelerate that, but it just reinforces how much is going on out there. And we're at a moment where there's some increased momentum at the state level too. Folks may be aware that WEDC got $63 million of federal funding for solar for all. So that's going to bring solar access to low and moderate income households, both through more community solar projects and more funding for rooftop solar. So that's going to be an exciting thing that will roll out in 2025. The State Office of Sustainability and Clean Energy is also working on some climate action plans. And of course, there's all of the federal funding that has been out there. And just to remind folks, kind of my fast summary of the federal funding. So first of all, relative to solar, geothermal, battery storage, everybody qualifies for 30% credit, whether you are a for-profit business, a tax-exempt nonprofit or local government, or a household. That credit applies to everyone. For energy efficiency, the opportunities really vary. Businesses can take a tax deduction based on how much they reduce their energy use. Tax-exempt entities like local governments can transfer that deduction to their design team. We've seen McFarland, as an example, do that for one of their recent projects. And then for households, there are both tax credits and there's a new set of rebates that are being offered through Focus on Energy that are federally funded that I'll talk a bit more about. For electric vehicles, there are incentives. As a local government, you can access these incentives not only on light duty vehicles, but also on forklifts and commercial scale riding lawnmowers, like lots of different things there, incentives for builders. So we're in this moment where there is a lot of opportunity to buy down the cost of these opportunities. Of course, the big question today, every day now, is, but what's going to happen to all of this under the new administration? And so one of the things I sent to Anne to share out with you all is this analysis. So this comes from 2 national firms that work on really big tax credit projects, which is to say, like, they're talking to important people who are in the know in a way that, like, this isn't really Kathy making up what she thinks could happen. This is much more, okay, these guys who have a lot of money at stake. And what they're essentially saying is that some of the tax credits may end before they expire, but none of them will end immediately. One of the points they make that I think is really important is tax code is never retroactive. Okay, it will take an act of Congress to change the tax code, and then the earliest that would be in effect would be the following year. So it's never the case that Congress changes the tax code for last year, kind of thing. So I think they're the way to understand this is we're going to have to keep watching this as much as anything. And the everyone is asserting that, so that's the tax credits. The grant efforts are likely going to spend out the funding they've received, but there may not be more grant efforts on the horizon, kind of thing. And just so this is again that table I highlighted here, all the things that are those tax credits. So the tax deduction for energy efficiency actually has no expiration date. That existed before the Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act just increased the amount of there, but there's no expiration on that. And the home energy rebates are a one-time grant to focus on energy from the Department of Energy. That money will go until it spends out, kind of thing. But the other things are the things that are tax credits in the tax code that have the potential. So right now they all run through 2032. And I think the question is, if when Congress is deliberating about how to extend other tax credits, are they going to cut some of these short to make that math work, is sort of a way to think about this risk. And in that handout that I referenced, there's this table that I thought this table was really helpful for me to think about this. So here's what's going on here. The up-down scale is sort of the level of risk that Republicans would cancel a program. So something that's low risk is something that would be generally popular among Republicans, whereas high risk would be unpopular. So for example, the carbon capture down here in the green box, carbon capture tends to be a pretty popular technology with folks on the right because it's a way to extend the life of coal and natural gas plants. So that's the sort of popularity thing. The bottom scale is how much money you would save if you got rid of that tax credit. So again, that carbon capture is not very much money and it's popular, so it ends up down in that green box that seems pretty safe. The contrast, of course, is the electric vehicle credit, which tends to be less popular with Republicans and has been a lot of Americans are taking advantage of it. So it's a bigger budget number at this point. I don't think that, these folks are not aiming to predict what's going to happen, but they're like, relatively, this is the scale of things. So the ITC is the investment tax credit. That's the solar geothermal battery storage. And there are two versions of it on this thing because it's in the process of shifting from one section of the tax code to the other. But I think the gist is it's kind of in the middle there, sort of thing. So I offer this not because I think we can predict, but kind of to provide you with as much information as we have. And I guess my other point about this is, we've been really committed to making sure you know about these credits. As we hear things, we're going to announce that in the Sustainability Leaders Collaborative newsletter we send out. We're going to put it on the website. We'll update our federal funding pages and the SLC pages to reflect that. So it's not, what I've started to say to people is I think, those, the existing tax credits that the Republicans want to extend expire at the end of 2025. So this is something that in 2025, they're going to need to take action on if they're going to change something. So I think we're going to know relatively soon how those things are going to play out forward. I want to mention two other initiatives that are grant funded, not tax credit funded. So Dane County this year got a $13.2 million grant to install EV charging infrastructure across the county. And essentially our pitch was that we were going to install charging where the private market won't. So already in Dane County, under the state funding for EV charging, we're getting 3 new fast chargers that are sort of the stuff that those are going to pay for themselves very quickly. That's about people out on the roads, but we know in our communities in older neighborhoods of multifamily housing, people can't access used EVs because they don't have anywhere to charge it. Can we solve some of those problems with this funding? So that's sort of what this funding aims to do. And again, we're in the process of finalizing the grant agreement. We believe that when that's finalized, the funds are secure and we will have them to spend out. This is going to be a 3 to 4 year project. So the Greater Madison MPO did an EV infrastructure analysis, and you'll have these slides and all these links will be live. And that analysis was of the entire county. So we have a countywide analysis of where we're missing EV charging. We will use that. We will engage communities and neighborhoods to get input, and then we'll have a process to finalize the site selection for sites where we will put this federally funded charging, and then we'll construct those stations. So it's going to be a little while for this to roll out, but I think it looks like we're going to have all of the grant agreements back from DOT in the next couple of weeks, which means we'll be on track to start that gap analysis in early January. That's what I think is going to happen there. So that's one program for you to be aware of. The other one are these programs through Focus on Energy. So under the, I think this is under the Inflation Reduction Act, every state got allocated money for an energy efficiency and an electrification program. Homes is the energy efficiency program. Here's the electrification program. In total, Wisconsin got $150 million. This is all completely under contract. Focus on Energy is starting to roll out these programs. And these programs are adjusted to county area median income. So this is significant for our communities in Dane County because households under 80% area median income can qualify for much higher incentives than they would qualify for otherwise. So like when you think about your communities, I want you to think about like older neighborhoods that where folks probably could use some help upgrading their homes. This program, I think, is going to be really viable for that. And again, there are incentives to make those homes more efficient. There are incentives to install things like heat pumps, but also to do wiring upgrades. We still have homes in some of our communities that have knob and tube wiring. This is the first chance that I'm ever aware of where you could get funding to upgrade some of those old wiring systems. So as that electrification program rolls out, I would be really interested in chatting with cities and villages about how we might make residents who might need a wiring upgrade aware of that program. Because this is really unprecedented there. So I'm being short because I wanted to leave some time for questions and discussion. I mean, when I think about when I was preparing this, you know, if you have a project in the works for 2025, whether that's another solar project or greening some of your fleet vehicles, you should totally be doing that. Nothing is going to change those credits in 2025. I think by late spring 2025, we're going to know if the credits change going forward or not, because there's going to have been action or it will be too late for it to happen for 26. You know, that's sort of, I think you also want to keep encouraging your residents and businesses to take advantage of these programs that are available, because it's a way to reduce their energy costs, to, you know, stretch their dollars a little further. And then just thinking about how we feed information to you, and, you know, you are so much closer to the populations in our county, how I'm always interested in how we can supply you with things that you can then share out to your constituents in a way that's helpful. So if you've thoughts about that, I am always open to hearing that. And then with that, I'm going to just stop sharing and see if folks have questions for me.
Well, thank you, Kathy. So let's take some questions if anybody has any. Kathy, I guess I have one while others are maybe contemplating their questions. If a person is building a house or they've got a project going on and there's so much information here for an average person to digest, is there a central location that people can reach out to?
So yeah, it's a great question, Bob. And so we've been that central location. And I mean, people call me. I pick up my phone,
Okay.
we chat, and we figure it out with them. I mean, for households, like it's pretty, if we point them to the tax credit summaries and things, folks, I think do well with that. Honestly, where we see the most questions is like people in condos. It's super complicated to put solar on a condo if, who owns the roof of your it's just a lot more complicated. So, but we've learned who has good advice on those things and who people can talk to. And, so sometimes we have the answers, but a lot of times it's about us connecting folks with other folks who have more answers.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Let's go to Lisa and then Jim Schuler after that. Lisa, go ahead.
Thank you. Kathy, your slide showing the federal money currently available has new housing up to $5,000 per unit for the builder. Can you talk about that a little bit and also talk about whether there are resources available to developers to share with their home buyers? We always try to encourage them to, position energy efficient options at the top of the list, as desirable instead of at the bottom of the list. Is there any outreach to developers to try to get them to nudge their buyers?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Both really good questions. So in terms of the builder tax credits, there are two tiers of tax credits, 2,500 per unit and 5,000 per unit for single family homes that they're you just meet a certain efficiency standard. We have builders in Wisconsin who are building net zero energy ready homes that can meet those standards. In those credits also apply to multifamily, but to get the full credit, you have to use prevailing wage and apprenticeship. Otherwise, it's a smaller credit. But we're aware of now builders who are building multifamily affordable housing projects in Dane County and are pursuing those credits because the county affordable housing fund has encouraged them to build more efficiently, and it's putting them in those brackets. So we're seeing some activity. I think there's a lot more potential there. One of the things that I'd like to see us do a bit more is reach out to those builders and developers and figure out how we help them. Over the last year, we worked with the city of Madison to create one pagers for tenants and landlords about all the programs that are available to you to help you with energy efficiency. And that was specific to a certain need that the city of Madison had that we collaborated on. But I think there's more opportunity there, to your point, to think about how do we help our builders talk about efficiency and educate homeowners on the features in the homes they're building. I've had some discussions with the Madison Area Builders Association about that. I think it's an area we should talk more. Maybe we should team up to talk to them somehow.
Okay. Jim Schuler, go ahead.
Hi, Kathy. Thanks for the presentation. Do you have any ready content or press releases that we could put in our Village of Maple Bluff newsletter to inform residents and keep them up to date on all this?
Oh, we could do that, Jim. Because I mean, we do some of that in the newsletter we send out to the public and stuff. We could totally share. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll
Email me and that like to me that's like beautiful because a ton more people read your stuff. You know, you're the local important news to them. So yeah, let's figure out how open offer to everyone. We're happy to supply you content.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, other questions or comments? Either raise your virtual hand or just unmute yourself. Okay. I'm not seeing any. Kathy, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me back.
Okay, you bet.
Bye.
Bye.